Oh, hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here from Rebel News. A couple of days ago, I got an email from Anne-Caroline Deplanque, who is an investigative reporter for Le Journal de Montreal. It's owned by Quebecor in Quebec. And I love Quebecor, and I like Le Journal de Montreal. I used to work for Quebecor more than 10 years ago at the Sun News Network. That was their English language TV channel. So I'm sort of an alumnus of their shop. I think that's why I have a soft spot for them. Anyways, when Anne-Caroline wrote to me, I knew that she was coming to criticize. I knew that she was politically hostile to Rebel News, but I knew that Quebecor is fair. And I thought, I'm going to spend a lot of time with her to make sure her report on Rebel News is accurate. I know it's going to be critical, but at least it'll be true. I talked to her on the phone several times. I wrote an enormous detailed email answering her questions. I gave her my personal cell phone number. I said, call anytime, no matter how big or small the question. And we spent a lot of time, and I felt like I corrected a number of misunderstandings she may have had because she was talking to me about complicated election materials. Anyways, I wake up today and I see this tweet by Le Journal de Montreal. And my French is terrible. I'm going to very quickly switch back to English, but it says, Rebel News a reçu près de $200,000 pour influencer la campagne électorale fédérale. Anyway, apologies for the French. I know from my terrible French speaking, I know I've just committed a crime against the language of Moliere there. But in English, that means Rebel News has received nearly $200,000 to influence the political campaign. What? No, we haven't. And that was never bruited in our conversation. It was never asked about. There's nowhere in any of the forms that we reviewed that it says that. I thought, what on earth is going on? Anyways, I read the article and I wrote back to Anne-Caroline and I said, what do you mean? What $200,000 are you talking about? And I asked a couple of brief questions and she suddenly has gone silent, which is really weird. I was extremely attentive to all her calls and emails, getting back to them very promptly, and she's hiding. In fact, she has deleted her Twitter account. If you click on Anne-Caroline D, which is she has taken it down ever since this post went up. That's crazy. Anyways, click on the article and use the Google Translate. I'm not going to butcher the French language anymore, and I apologize for what I did. But if you switch it over to English, I'm going to take about 10 minutes to go through this because I want to rebut the inaccuracies and, frankly, the deception here. I think the fact that she's hiding from me and has deleted her entire account shows that she knows that she tried to pull a fast one, not on me, but on her own viewers. And if I was a reader or subscriber to Le Journal de Montreal, I'd be a little bit disappointed in them. And I say this as a fan of the company. Working for Pierre-Carl Pelado at Sun News Network was one of the best jobs of my life. And I really admired the man. That's frankly why I spent so much time with this reporter. And I assumed she would have his high standards. I'm actually really, I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but I am. Anyhow, let me read the article. Rebel News received nearly $200,000 to influence the federal election campaign. Doesn't it make it sound like there's some secret payment that we were paid to adjust our journalism, to be instigators or something, that we weren't really independent reporters like she is, that we were like bribed? That sure is what it sounds like. And then the deck there, which is the way you say subheadline is, the channel that short-circuited the leaders' debates receives large sums for partisan activities. No, it doesn't. That implies we got paid $200,000 to be pro-conservative or something. That's just not true. And that's certainly not what Anne-Caroline put to me in our phone calls and in our emails. I think I might publish my entire email with exchange with her now that I think about it. Now, let me read the story. The far-right channel, whose activists caused the cancellation of the leaders' post-debate question period, received nearly $200,000 to influence the election campaign, according to data from Elections Canada. You know, almost every word in that sentence is untrue. We're not far-right. We're conservative. We did not cause the cancellation of the leaders' post-debate question period. That was done by Michel Cormier, who didn't want us to have so many questions. We had 4 questions the first night, and the rest of the media pressured him to stop us from having more. received nearly $200,000 to influence the election campaign. Again, I have no idea what she's talking about, but she says, according to data from Elections Canada. So I think she's deliberately misinterpreting something she never talked about on the phone or an email with me, and I'll get into that in a minute. Let me keep reading. I won't read the whole thing. It's enormously long. The channel has convinced the Chiefs Debate Commission to grant it 5 journalistic accreditations, while it is registered as a third party with Elections Canada for partisan activities. Again, she's being deceptive. Rebel News Network has registered with the Elections Canada for one reason only. And I told Anne-Caroline about this, and she understood. We have a call center that phones our subscribers year-round. It happens all the time. We just get on the phone and encourage people to renew. And our call center said to us that during the election, there's a chance those conversations could touch on partisan politics, so they could be considered electioneering. So either we shut down the call center for the month of the campaign, which we don't want to do, or we register that subscription donation call center with the government and call it a third party. So that's what we did. I wrote this in detail to Anne-Caroline, and she said, oh yeah, we have that at Le Journal also. I don't think they registered theirs. So she knew it was not for a deceptive or partisan purpose, but she wrote this the other way. I'm very disappointed in her journalism ethics. Let me keep going. Rebel News also received $169,500 from For Canada, an organization created by Rebel News boss Ezra Levant to campaign against Mark Carney. Now that is true, and I announced it publicly about a month ago. And the reason is Rebel News is partisan, so our enemies say, and we're political and we campaign. And I accept all that as a reasonable point of view. We love to fight. So we hived all that off into a third-party group called For Canada. So we didn't want to get in trouble. We wanted to follow the laws. So Rebel News during the campaign does only 2 things. It does journalism and it sells ads. This other group, For Canada, does the political stuff like running ads. So she's actually right on that. But I think what she's done is she's claiming that those ads that For Canada bought on Rebel News is some sort of payment to Rebel News to be partisan. Like she's saying selling ads during the election makes Rebel News like a secret activist organization or something. But that's obviously not true because every media company in Canada sells ads during the election, including Le Journal. In fact, Rebel News has sold ads over the years to probably 5 or 6 different political parties. It doesn't mean that we are in league with those parties. In fact, I quite disagree with some of the parties that have advertised with us. They're marked as ads. I think the whole theme of this article in Le Journal is because a third-party group bought ads marked as ads on Rebel News. That means Rebel News is somehow tainted as a partisan troublemaker. But that's literally just selling ads during an election, what every media outlet does. This is a deception. It's a trick. And it doesn't surprise me she never talked to me about it in our phone calls because it's so absurd. Let me scoot down this article because it's so long. I'm going to go to some other errors. I was really disappointed in Anne-Caroline. I was on the phone with her so much, and I said, run anything by me at any time. And she didn't, because I think she knew she was taking liberties with the truth. And I actually don't think she wanted to check her facts with me, because then she couldn't say the deceptive part. Here's an example. Let me read this. When it was founded in 2015, Rebel News had among its collaborators Gavin McInnes, the founder of the Proud Boys, a far-right group designated as a terrorist entity in Canada since 2021. McInnes left the channel in 2017. So isn't that funny? I mean, he did his Proud Boys shenanigans years after he left us, but that was an important fact that she wanted to add to this article. Since then, the channel has recruited the British far-right activist Tommy Robinson, an ex-hooligan known for his Islamophobic positions and convicted on multiple occasions. No, it wasn't since then. Tommy was with us in 2016 and 2017. I know that's a small thing, but but I think she fudged the dates to make it seem like I don't know. There's just sloppy standards for Quebecor. Again, I'm not asking for Anne Carolyn to like Gavin McInnes, even though he's one of the most popular conservative comedians out there. I'm not asking for her to support Tommy Robinson, the free speech activist and journalist in the UK, but just getting little details wrong to sort of hang it around the neck. And really, the whole purpose for demonizing Rebel News here is to demonize Pierre Poilievre. They have a section on the fact that I worked with Pierre Poilievre 25 years ago. Let me quote from that really briefly. Pierre Poilievre has known the channel's founder, Ezra Levant, for more than 25 years, having even campaigned for him when he presented himself for the Canadian Alliance in Calgary Southwest in 2002. That finally went to Stephen Harper. After this episode, Mr. Levant, a lawyer by training, withdrew from active politics. Look, that's what this is about, I think. I think they're trying to say, we hate Rebel News. Rebel News is sketchy. And that goes around the neck of Pierre Poilievre, the conservative leader, because he was friends with Ezra 25 years ago. It's such a stretch. You know, there's other little errors that just make me chuckle. I mean, and here's what I mean. Rebel News Canada, which says it lives exclusively from public donations, has nearly 82,000 subscribers on YouTube. Yeah, no, sister, we have more than 1.7 million. We're larger than Le Journal de Montreal. I'm going to stop going through it now. It's so long, and I have no idea how many normal people would read that article and find it interesting. It's so much inside baseball, journalists yapping on about other journalists. But I guess what I'm left with is my esteem for Quebecor has fallen a bit. I thought that the investigative branch of Quebecor was really one of the best in the world. That's how it was when I knew about it a decade or two ago. And one of the reasons why I engaged with Anne Carolyn was I thought she's a great journalist, and I've got to be on my best game too. I got to answer all her questions as well as I can, because she's really going to hold me to the fire. But she didn't. She withheld various facts that she knew I was going to correct, and so she didn't put them to me. And even the things I did correct, she lied about. That's what's so disappointing for me. I guess they say never meet your heroes. Now, Anne Carolyn herself was never my hero, but Quebecor sort of was. That was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. I was given so much freedom. And one of the things I told Anne Carolyn was the style of journalism that we do at Rebel News, that was born at Quebecor. The campaigning, the crowdfunding, the going out into the field with billboards, the getting involved in the community. I learned that at Quebecor. I perfected that at the Sun News Network. And I only met Pierre-Carl Pelleteau once or twice there, but I loved the man for what he had created, and I loved him for the freedom of speech that he had allowed. I guess that's the image I've had of Quebecor for 15 years in my mind. High standards, willing to color outside the lines of what's, staid journalism, allowing a guy like me to be a passionate campaigner and defending my freedom of speech. That was Quebecor in my mind until this morning. Anne Carolyn Deplanque is a crappy journalist. She spreads disinformation. And when I, in a very friendly way, emailed her this morning about it, she disconnected from me, deleted her Twitter account, and has gone into hiding because I just want to ask her about her deceptions. I don't know. I don't really care in a way. Rebel News lives and dies by its own wits. And obviously 1.7 million people love what we do. It's just sort of, I guess, to lose a hero, to have an image of Quebecor tarnished by some lazy attack journalist, that's what makes me sad more than the defamation. For Rebel News, I'm Ezra Levant.